Mr. Gary, it's a pleasure of having you with us today. Thank you very much for your time.
You are very welcome, and I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
Before further ado, just, always I ask my guests my very favorite question. How did you end up choosing construction field or civil engineering for your studies?
It's in my DNA. It goes back to the Doomsday registration book, and you'll find all my forefathers in there as it tends to have been split. They've either been directors of development companies in construction or as quite often colonels in the Royal Army or the Royal Engineers. So for me, the writing was on the wall when I was born. My father was a developer, had a very large development company in the UK. He was building housing estates. Now that cuts the grain these days as a chartered environmentalist, obviously not as a chartered civil engineer. So I have a clash within my own, if you like, my own priorities. But yeah, it's just in my blood, and I had no choice. I literally fell into it, and hence I pursued a career in civil engineering, and obviously went through 15 years of education and getting chartered, and then pursued other professions, separate professions, but allied, if you like, within the construction industry, including the environmental aspects. As my last job in the UK, when I left 20 odd years ago, I was the National Policy Advisor to the UK government in the House of Lords and House of Commons. And I was also the advisor to the Member of European Parliament, Elliot Morley at the time, Minister for the Environment. And that was my involvement into politics. And basically my role was to become a spin doctor. And that was not how I had spent my entire life getting to the top of my tree, to be found that when the environmental ministers or the government got into trouble about environmental issues, I was being hauled in to basically, as a spin doctor, to distract the media and the news, television, radio stations away from those issues. And you can imagine that made me extremely upset, because I had solutions and I wanted the solutions implemented in government level. I was the national policy advisor to Europe and to England and Britain, and it was not being done. So I threw the towel in and said, bye-bye England, and came out to the Gulf.
Awesome. So why did you choose a particular Gulf in your particular journey?
There was an opportunity came about from a colleague of mine who was the CEO of an international consulting company, and they had the construction supervision or design and construction supervision for Mina Salalah. It's the Salalah port in Oman. And I was asked if I would go out there and help set up a design office to deal with a number of issues that they were aware had arisen as a result of the port construction. And they also wanted someone to manage the site team, finish off the construction of the port, and then take forward new business. And that is precisely what I did. It was very enjoyable until the corruption came into it, and everybody went to jail, apart from me. That's another story. That's how I left Oman.
And then you have been traveled to Qatar, I guess? No.
Yes, I went back to Qatar with Monsul, UK engineering or construction engineering company, and there I was the regional supervision manager for the whole of Middle East and Africa and the offices across the Gulf area, until AECOM took it over. That creates a little bit of a problem, because Americans don't do things how we do in England. They have different standards which are not up to our standards in England. They are, with greatest respect, the people I found were I won't use the word incompetent, but I will certainly say that they were less than satisfactory in my mind in terms of being able to manage projects, manage people. It was as though, you know, the rest of us were aliens on the planet, and that there's only one continent that is, as far as the Americans are concerned, and that is America. Everybody else are little people, third worlders, and that's how they thought of them. I wasn't very happy about that, as you can imagine, because I had a massive team. I had 101 staff, 98 projects on the go at the time, from sewage works to corniche works, sea walls, major construction works like the cultural village development in Qatar, and it got to the point where I found myself redesigning. They had a design, or ACOM had a design office, but the designs that they were putting out, they hadn't even coordinated them. So you can imagine, all of a sudden, I'm the project director, and also, you know, with another hat on, the resident engineer on site. I've got contractors there. I'm getting design drawings, and I'm looking at all the design drawings, overlaying them on AutoCAD, and I've got culverts 2 feet above the ground going across the main road. I've got street lights, you know, in one of the lanes on the road. So it was a case of I literally had to take all those design drawings and start again and redo them. And I was reissuing these drawings on behalf of the Cultural Village Committee. And I think I got to about, I don't know, the 90th drawing, and the chairman of His Highness's committee said to me, "What is going on? Why am I signing off all these drawings?" And I said, basically, they have to be corrected. And he said, "Why do they have to be corrected?" And I said, "Well, they can be better. You know, call it value engineering." Yeah. I was trying to hide the fact that the designs were utterly diabolical. And so what happened was, the heir apparent's office dragged me out of ACOM, sat me on the corniche in the Emir's building, and said, "Right, I want you to write the statement of claim suing ACOM for negligence." And I said, "I can't do that." I said, "It's a conflict of interest." And they said, "We're telling you, this is what you shall do. We want you to put the documentation together." And they said, "Consider yourself, you don't work for ACOM anymore. You work for us." And it was a case of, you know, what do you do? You know, you're a guest in their country, and you're being told that you no longer work for the company because they're incompetent, and they want you to sue them. So anyway, cut a long story short, I had enough of it, and I just left. And I came, Roger Knowles, J.R. Knowles, who's a construction lawyer, a barrister, as you may know. I'd known him since I was 17 years old, and he'd been following my career and footsteps for around 30 years at that time, or well, 20 odd years anyway. And he contacted me when I was in Qatar at that time, ironically, and he said, "How do you fancy coming over and joining me in the United Arab Emirates?" And it's a case of, yes, save me.
Of course.
So I did, and he knew that I had been involved in contracts since I was 17 years of age, and had done a great deal of talks on contracts, primarily the Institution of Civil Engineers 5th edition of contract, which of course is how FIDIC arose. That's what FIDIC comes from. And he was the one who had been training me. So he pulled me into the United Arab Emirates, and he said, "You're very strong on project management and procedures and project controls and operations." Yeah. So he said, "Right, I want you to head up my new project management division." And I said, "What project management division?" He said, "You're just about to start it." I was like, "Okay." And he said, "I want you to split half between contracts and half between project management." I was like, "Okay, so you want me to develop the project management business as well as doing obviously the contracts and claims and such like?" And it was a case of yes. And I did that very happily for about 4 years, until, guess what? Another American company, Hill International, came in and took over. And they walked down the office in their 10-gallon hats and said, We don't know what we're going to do with you. We might sell you. We might rent you out. 45 resignations ended up on Gordon Moffat's desk, who was the GM. 45 resignations by 5 o'clock that night, including mine. We just said enough is enough. You had some of the best barristers, solicitors, lawyers, contract construction claims people. Everyone was so highly qualified and experienced. It was a case of, you know, don't come here insulting us. So we said, no, go away. And of course, that is how Roger Knowles, J.R. Knowles, in the Gulf region had to be dissolved because they couldn't carry on the trade license because everybody had left. And so,
yeah, of course. Yeah.
So Knowles unfortunately disappeared completely in the Gulf. At that point in time, I had been working for Shapoorji Pallonji, who you will know, one of the biggest Indian contracting companies. And Cyrus was a very good friend of mine, who is the son of Pallon in Mumbai, as you know. And I flew over to meet his father, and he said, yes, I'd like you to take up and deal with, you know, my son and helping him with a construction company in Dubai. So anyway, I said, right, I'll give you a year of my time, 1 year. And that was agreed. When I came back to the UAE and put my passport in to change my visa to Shapoorji, I was told by immigration, you can't do that. You've already had a visa change to Hill International. I said, no. I said, I was told because Hill International was an amalgamation, a takeover, it would not count as a visa change because I'm in the same office, same seat, same everything. And he said, I don't know who told you that. And I said, it was your captain who told me. And he said, well, systems change. You can't work in Dubai. So at that time, I had been talking to a local gentleman named Adnan Al-Nakai, who was the CEO of Palm Dira, and they were just starting it. And he wanted me to, as part of the Nakheel Empire, and he wanted me to go and take over the position as the commercial and contracts director for the whole of Palm Dira, a 3 billion dirham budget. And I'd already, you know, my inside was saying, you know, Nakheel, Emar, you must be joking. Not a hope. They have spat out and regurgitated many of my colleagues over the years, and it's a case of no thank you. So I was amusing him. And of course, when I got told that I couldn't work in Dubai, I thought, hello, I can see a net here. I can see a grey area to escape. I thought if I go and work in the free zone for 1 month and get a free zone visa, I can then walk out that free zone based on the 3 months probation period without any excuse or reason whatsoever by law. I can then walk back into Dubai and get a visa in Dubai and join my good friend in Shapoorji. And that is precisely what I did. So I then joined Shapoorji for 12 months, and at the end of the 12 months, despite a lot of tugging and not wanting to let me go, I said, no, I must go. I wish to start up my own company. And that was in about late 2008. It was, in fact, the day the Lehman Brothers went down was the day I decided I was going to start my own company. And that was when I banged a hole in the wall with my head saying, you stupid bugger, any time in the last 30 years would have been better. So on that basis, I started on my own. And it's been a roller coaster since 2008, ever since. Absolute roller coaster, unbelievable experience, unbelievable knowledge gain, being able to help others, being able to solve problems. That's what it's all about.
But I can see that you have already been like a tremendous roller coaster even before you have started your own.
Oh yeah, there was the major roller coasters as far as Europe is concerned in England, but the roller coasters here, I think, have been perhaps slightly more tumultuous in terms of the bumpiness of the rides. But at the end of the day, it's been an absolute pleasure and experience being able to help others and provide solutions to problems which other people either haven't got the education or the training or the knowledge or the development. So being able to contribute to those issues is, for me, it's just been fantastic. It's been wonderful, and I loved every minute of it. What I don't love is when people don't pay me and I don't get my fees, which is my salary. My fees are the lowest in the market. People laugh at me. Solicitors say you're too cheap, and I say, yes, thank you very much for telling me. I've been told it 100 times. I say, you know, I'm not out to make money. I'm out to do a work. For me, it's work. For me, it's about what I can contribute, what I can feed back into the industry, what I can feed back into other people's lives and help them. Because I've had so much help in my life from so many wonderful people. And I have a duty to do that, regardless of my royal charters. It's a moral duty, if you like, an ethical duty. And when I get, you know, owed millions and millions and millions and millions of dirhams from various clients and locals who are given amnesties against an arrest warrant and jail, and they're given an amnesty by the Crown Prince Office in Abu Dhabi, as one has now for the last 3 years, owes me 12 million dirhams. His amnesties keep getting released. I'm waiting for another one to be released now. The last amnesty finished on the 19th of June, and I'm owed 12 million dirhams, and I want it. You know, I mean, there's another couple of cases I've got on the go which I'm prosecuting as well, but that's another issue. Those are small cases. But yeah, I mean, that's the problem. You know, what do you do when you've got the UAE Crown Prince Office issuing amnesties for one of his own tribal members who owes money? The court has found it 100% correct, reasonable to the dirham. And, you know, you've had appeal after appeal on decimal points. And it's like, what's going on here? And then, of course, at the end of the day, you get the award. And then you go forward, and I got the arrest warrants, and then these amnesties started coming out, and that's where we are right now. Amnesty after amnesty after amnesty. Stop it, put it, you know, basically allowing that person to continue using my money, my goods, my services at my expense, and I'm not very happy about that at all. But that's another story. That's got nothing to do with what I do on a daily basis. It's just
coming back to
my side.
Yeah, coming back to now, jumping back to your career so far, it has been like a magnificent, I must say, 40 years in design.
I'm sorry, I can't say again.
Yeah, coming back to your career, where you have got a magnificent experience, like almost like 40 years in design, construction, contract administration, and major project management specializing in construction claims, right? Time, cost, forensic planning. When you mentioned that you had to have multiple hats without any notice, like you had to immediately jump on from all the way from a director to all the way being a resident engineer, talking to all the subcontractors or the contractors. How did you feel?
You got to go back, because I started off as a trainee technician.
Yes.
You know, I had O levels and A levels, and I took my A levels when I was 16, which is almost unheard of in England. And I applied to universities, and they just laughed at me and said, "Go away, come back in 2 years. You know, you're too young." I was like, I've got the qualifications. What more do you want? Let me join. No. So I managed to get, I was taken on as a trainee technician in a water authority. And in those days in the United Kingdom, water authorities did everything to do with water, from main rivers, coastal, water resources, supply, reservoirs, you name it. And so I went to work for them in their new works design department, and I spent 6 or 7 years there. I forget now, but they put me through, again, because the university wouldn't accept me. They said, "Look, you can do a much lesser way of doing it, but you can use this time to your benefit. So go and do an ONC, an ordinary national certificate, and then do a higher national certificate. And then by that time, you'll be old enough and you can go to university. And I was like, yep, okay, job done. So the 3 years ONC was cut down to 1 year because I already had qualifications. And then I went on to an HNC in Southampton in civil engineering and structural engineering. And I finished that, and the Water Authority basically said they are disbanding. There's no more Water Authority in the United Kingdom anymore. It's going to be split up, which is what has happened, of course. And so they said that basically this office is disappearing in a year's time. We can't sponsor you for university because we won't be here. However, you've got 12 months. Would you like to go and do another HNC in 12 months? And I was like, can that be done? They said, yes, of course you can. You can do it. I said, okay. So I went and did that in law and project management. And after that, of course, the building closed, basically. The Water Authorities closed. So I then went and joined the Bournemouth Borough Council. It's now Bournemouth, Poole and Christchurch Councils. It's expanded its kingdom. And I was involved in the Borough Engineer's Office, carrying out design work. Because the Water Authority had disbanded its role and its responsibilities, Bournemouth, with being a coastal town, was a metropolitan borough council, and it had all the issue of the coasts, and whilst it didn't actually control the main rivers, because that was done by the National Rivers Authority, a new body, it did have all the water courses and streams and such like under its belt. And so I was involved in a lot of works from certainly the bathing water directives for basically intercepting raw sewage going out into bathing waters. You'll know that Bournemouth and Poole have got about 20 miles of beautiful golden beaches, golden sandy beaches. And so stopping nasties going out into the water was very high priority. And so interception tunnels and new pumping stations, all of that was done, and I was heavily involved in this, as well as some highways, some reservoir works, and cliff stabilisation, a lot of things like that, a lot of different things. That's the beauty of being in a borough council, where it's a large department which still had control of all the various functions. And so I was able to, mix and match and slot into one and do the design and the documentation contracts. And then actually go out on site and supervise the works, and then change to a completely different area and aspect and do the same thing. I was there for 6 or 7 years again, until after getting chartered, it was a case of time to move on and up.
Yes.
I was waiting for dead man's shoes, and that wasn't going to happen. So I left, and I went down to, there was the city engineer in Plymouth was a fantastic gentleman, and I really, really admired him so much that I thought, yeah, I want him to be my next mentor. So I went down there, he employed me, and I then got involved, because of my involvement in the water industry, I got involved in the European Clean Sweep programme, of which Plymouth had its own Clean Sweep initiatives being carried out by none other than the South West Water Authority. Now, of course, all the delegated aspects were to the local authority. So I worked for the local authority, doing what I was doing before in the Water Authority. But now I had all the authority and the power and the regulations to operate properly and professionally within the local government again, but in a borough council, city engineers department. And so I carried out the Plymouth Clean Sweep programme. It was 250 million dirhams, 250 million pounds. It was interceptor tunnels, 32 pumping stations, 80-metre deep shafts, some of them vortex shafts, cutting edge technology, and tunneling through Plymouth Rock, which is no easy feat. But basically, again, stopping the raw sewage going out into the bays. And it was a very successful project. And my last day working for Plymouth City Council, when I did a presentation to the Institution of Civil Engineers and the Chartered Institution of Water and Environmental Management in Cornwall, and it was packed. There must have been around 200 people there. They were standing out in the gardens. It was just incredible. Well, they wanted to know about the Clean Sweep program, which had now been finished the design. It was ready to go out for construction. And basically, the last question I was asked is, someone said, at your young age, you've achieved this this project and an accolade under your belt. What are you going to do next? And I said, well, interesting you should ask, because tomorrow I'm working for the Rivers Authority. It brought the house down. It was a case of poacher becomes gamekeeper. And so I joined the National Rivers Authority, and lo and behold, the writing was on the wall. As per my previous life, it got taken over again by the Environment Agency. So that opened up the world again. And I went on with the Environment Agency, dealing with fluvial, that's rivers, coastal engineering, setting up many of the coastal management plans, river engineering plans, the strategies at very high government level as to how the consultants and contractors of the world with the UK were actually going to implement these projects. I say that eventually led to my being appointed as the policy advisor for the UK. And I was able to release myself from about 15 different committees, international committees. I was working in Europe at the time doing morphodynamic modelling of intertidal mudflat behaviour. That might sound like a mouthful, but it was actually very important on the coast of England as well. Anyway, that all aside, it was all to do with construction, one way or another. So that's basically it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's about it.
With this particular conversation which I have just now, just tell us one thing. How did you, and from where you get so much of energy? So much of energy. From where you get this much of energy?
Oh, it's just born into me. I am a born optimist. Motivation levels are off the scale. And I try to portray that to other people as well, and when I'm working with them, they say they're motivated, which it's good. We have it's kind of a feedback loop. Other people become motivated because they realize what they're actually learning and what they can, and how they can use it. That's what it's all about. It's making
empowering them.
Yeah, but really, really useful stuff. Yeah.
Apart from this, another one thing, I see you very much, as you said, motivated always. Is there anything specifically you would like to share with us where you see that this is where I get motivation? This is how I get motivated.
Well, leading by example, of course. I mean, as a CEO, basically I'm a chief executive tea boy of my own company. I don't stand on ceremony at all, ever. I wouldn't dream of doing that. I'm not worthy of it. But no, I mean, if you've got the zest, you've got the got up and go, and you've got the knowledge, the capability, and some confidence, there's nothing that you cannot do. And that is what I try and tell people. There's nothing you cannot do. If you put your mind to it, if you want to learn something, ask people. Go onto the internet. And if you can't find it there, pick up the phone, call me. And if I don't know the answer, I'll phone one of the 100 people around the world who I know, who are 10 times better than myself in every subject. And I will phone one of them, the top peers of this world. And that's how it works. It's a case of there is nothing that you cannot do if you want to.
Absolutely, yes. There is a saying from the last three years of my entrepreneurship journey as well. I have learned myself there's one particular statement I have generated on myself, which is either you don't want to do it or you don't know how to do it, right?
Yeah,
So these are the only two situations where anyone can place themselves across. So if you don't want to do it, man, close the chapter, move on, because you don't want to do it, basically. And if you don't know how to do it, reach to the person and learn how to do it and do it.
Yeah, 9 times out of 10, I find that people who don't want to do something, it's because your second point, they don't know how to do it and they haven't got the confidence. So therefore, they don't want to do it. They try to run away from it. So the first thing is knowledge, education, training, self-expansion, continuing professional development. And that is where, when I started talking with you, I said I do a lot of CPD talks to a lot of the institutions, including several Indian societies, Sri Lankan societies, Australian societies. I mean, I do it because people have got motivation. They are motivated to learn. They want to become professionally qualified.
Correct.
And so I am more than happy, more than willing to help them, you know, not writing their reports for them, that's plagiarism, but to actually help them, guide them and steer them and give them pointers as to how to do these type of things. And that's basically what I do.
In addition to that, we also know that you have been mentoring many of postgraduates, right? So almost like 5 or 6 post-graduation students, or how that goes. Like you always keep yourself motivated. You always tend towards giving back to the ecosystem. You always stood for the people and in the front line, saying that yes, I'm here, guys. Come back to me. Reach out to me. How do you actually balance your life, personal life, as well as this kind of life?
Generally by tending to work about 18 hours every day. Time is a luxury. I do tend to work 7 days a week. I don't have time off. My boss is horrible. He doesn't give me any time off. He doesn't pay overtime. He doesn't give me holidays. I'll write him a nasty letter later on. So in that regard, it's, as I say, it comes down to self-motivation and giving back, you know, all that I have learned and all that I'm still learning.
Well,
I love learning.
That's really awesome, actually, because there are very, very few people who believe that giving back to the ecosystem would give back to them in abundance, you know.
You have to give back. I mean, it's in my morals and ethical standards, if you like, anyway. But under the royal charters that I am signed up to, there is a duty and honour in order to feed back to younger, up-and-coming people. So whilst it is incumbent upon me as a duty, it is also a very ethical and moral issue, because people have gone out of their way to help me in my 40 years, and they still are. And so I am, you know,
you don't feel any excuses of stopping you without helping.
No, I think so long as you stay optimistic and motivated, there's no problem.
Exactly.
Yeah, awesome. You can do anything.
Awesome. Overall, in your career, what's your point or take on technology in the construction? How do you think technology is helping engineers, or it is gonna help engineers? How do you think it is changing, evolving?
Technology has advanced tremendously. So certainly since 40 years ago, when I was using a slide rule. Yeah, the invention of calculators helped that. Yes, there are so many inventions and technology that have advanced the way we operate and the way we actually see things and implement things. The more in the first world countries like the UK or America. In this part of the world, it's still a third world country that we are in. You know, the UAE is a third world developing country. It's got a lot of people here from other third world countries. So you have a mindset, you have a third world mindset. The ability to implement technology is hampered by the fact that people who come here are not educated properly, they're not trained properly, they're not developed properly, so they can't appreciate what what the technology can do, and so they're not interested in it. And it's a block, it's a barrier. Every time I see it, when I suggest something to somebody and say, have you heard about this product? How it could basically help the construction and make life a lot easier. They're not interested. They do things the old way, their way, you know. And I say, yeah, that's third world. That's like 1,000 years ago. Come into the limelight, you know, come into the 21st century, join me and use this technology. They don't want to know.
Do you think this particular situation where we are all in, the entire world is running towards the COVID-19 has been accelerated little thinking of these kind of mindsets?
I think the only move forward as far as the Gulf region is concerned, because of COVID, is the greater use of video conferencing. You know, that's about it. It's had zero impact other than that. It has not helped at all. You know, I'll say in the UK and in America, not so much in America because they're always slow. But bearing in mind they've only been around for the last 250 years or thereabouts. But certainly in the UK and parts of Europe, you have got fantastic technology emerging right now. And it's going to change the way we operate. But sadly, not in the Gulf. The Gulf is thousands of years behind still. It's third world. It needs to have people who are educated, leading the system, leading the companies. I don't see that anymore.
Absolutely, yes. Any last words which you would like to share with our viewers, budding engineers, which from your all over career? Please.
Yeah, learn. Stay positive, stay optimistic. Give back to the industry, give back to younger people, help them. Use technology to its full effect. And enjoy what you do. Enjoy.
That's awesome. That's some really kind words, and I hope this conversation is very fruitful for our viewers as well. Hello, my fellow engineers. This was Mr. Gary for us. We definitely saw the complete roller coaster of his entire 40 years of life, or whatever he has done, and trying to still he's into the construction industry, trying to shape somewhere or other whatever he could, however he could. And stay tuned, many more stories like this yet to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much.